I started this podcast over 10 years ago. Since then, I've become a venture capitalist. You know the story, 8-Bit Capital. We do seed stage investing. Pre-seed, it's called now. That's putting money in at the very earliest stage of a company's life into software companies. So the logic there would tell you that I had the podcast before I became a venture capitalist. Not a typical path these days. For some reason, people who become venture capitalists have now decided they need podcasts. Not really sure why. They became interesting all of a sudden once they became a venture capitalist. But that's not really why I do it. The way we distinguish ourselves as venture capitalists is we invest in great founders building great companies. It's kind of a gimmick. But I did it because I just want to meet a number of people who are cool and interesting and have done incredible things or have followed different paths. And I've had a little bit of a side obsession, you may have noticed, with people who've become venture capitalists outside of the normal route. We make fun of the normal route, working at McKinsey or Bain after having gone to Stanford or Harvard. But people seem infinitely intrigued by how people become venture capitalists. Well, I've got another one of those stories for you today. My guest today is Lee Edwards. Lee is an engineer through and through. You'll hear it in this podcast. Might even get a little technical for you at times. But he's an engineer, a very funny guy, who has found his way into venture capital. Ladies and gentlemen, my conversation today with Lee Edwards. Welcome back. All right, welcome back. This is the Something Ventured podcast. I am Kent Lindstrom. I am your host. My guest today, Lee Edwards, a general partner at Root VC. How are you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for having the name Lee Edwards, too. I find the toughest part of the whole podcast is saying the person's name at the beginning. Like, is it Danielle Strackman or Strockman? Like, you thought you knew, and then there you are. But I've had on Nnamdi Okike, so I'm pretty good.
For sure. Yeah, very few people mispronounce my name, although it's common enough that there are some slightly more famous Lee Edwardses out there. One of them is a biographer.
Yeah.
He has a few books,
Yeah, my partner, Jonathan Abrams, I think there's like a sports guy or something that used to be more famous than him, but I don't think is more famous than him anymore. The trick with your name is I almost superimposed it, like Ed Lee, like that kind of thing.
all the time. I thought about running for mayor of San Francisco under the name Lee Edwards back when Ed Lee was mayor, because especially with like the Chinese transliteration or whatever, you could easily confuse which one was the first and which one was the last, and I think I would get some free votes.
Do people do, like in ranked choice voting, like wouldn't that be a good idea? Like if you don't want Ed Lee to win, Ed Lee, shouldn't you get like a guy named Ed Ed Lee, and just get him on the ballot? It wouldn't like enough people. I might be an expert. Well, I'm an expert at everything as a VC, but I may be a political expert.
I think that could work. I'll let the local politicians know you've got a hack for them.
But Lee Edwards, partner at Root VC. Before that, he was an engineer at places like Teespring and iRobot and Pivotal Labs. I was actually part of a company that was a Pivotal Labs competitor called New Context.
Of course. I think we viewed you as a competitor. I think we had a lot of folks that went from Pivotal to New Context.
Yeah, and then the idea, well, we thought we were a competitor, but you guys ended up buying us.
Yeah, I think we were very philosophical. I mean, technically competitors in the sense that I'm sure we bid on the same stuff, but I don't know. That was a very special moment in time when I think there were a lot of people really buying into this philosophy, and we were all really invested in the ecosystem of let's build software better together. That was the way I felt. I felt like we were kind of all on the same team fighting the old school waterfall methodology.
Yeah, it was a very philosophical thing. You actually explain what that is, like the pivotal thing, like the 9:06 a.m. It was just such a weird period in time. I'm not technical, so I was fascinated by it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Pivotal at the time that I joined, which was I guess 2010. Had been around about a decade at that point, a little more. And so it's a consultancy, and where they kind of ended up around that time was really focusing on sort of how we build software. So pair programming, 24/7. So you're basically always hands on keyboard with someone else, the two of you, at the same time, and partly partly because that is such an exhausting, like highly productive, but
Yeah.
very exhausting way to work. We were strictly 9 to 6. Like, please don't show up before. Well, if you show up before 9, you can have breakfast, but please go home at 6 and please take a full hour lunch.
Yeah.
So 40 hours, I would say 40 hours of full time pair programming is about as exhausting as, you know, being working at a startup and working
Yeah.
maybe 50% longer than that, but not pair programming.
Yeah.
Equal amount of exhaustion at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it was, but then on top of that, we also did sort of like the agile methodology, and I think, um, clients would hire us to basically come in, work with the engineers, teach them how we do things, and I think what I've come to appreciate over a period of time is that Pivotal had a strong point of view, and we were very
Mm.
convinced that our way was the best way. I
Yeah.
think there are actually a lot of best ways, but I really appreciate that they're very intentional about documenting how we work, kind of having the discipline to hire for people that want to work that way. I think that was part of the secret sauce. So now as a VC, like I work with one company, Zed, but the founder also comes out of Pivotal,
Yeah.
who works in a somewhat similar way to Pivotal. But I think most importantly, he's really attracted people who share his philosophy and how to deliver software.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most important thing.
It's funny. So the pair programming thing is like two people together sit at a computer and work on a problem. And then if you kind of don't get stuck, right? If one guy gets stuck or loses, like, then the other person kind of catches up.
Yep.
And I remember we were at some pitch meeting in Asia somewhere, pitching it to some CEO, like, here's how it works and here's why you should hire us. And the guy said, and he might have been right. He's like, oh yeah, I get why this works. It's because you can't screw around,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't just go check your Facebook page or, whatever, whatever it is, right?
I think there's sort of two forms of that. Yeah. One is the sort of, yeah, like that, maybe that's like malicious slacking or like, so some like negative connotation of like doing something else. But the other thing is just focusing on the most important thing. Like I actually feel like one of the most important kinds of focus that pairing brings you is rabbit holing down the wrong problem. Like I might say like, "Oh, we noticed, this little bit of technical debt as we're coding, like, I wanna fix that." And
Yeah.
my peer would be like, "All right, well, let's time box that to, like, 2 minutes."
Yeah.
And then 2 minutes rolls around, I'm like, "Okay, 2 more minutes." Like, "All right, 2 more minutes." And he's like then they're like, "Okay, all right, we spent 4 minutes, like, we're done." Don't whereas if I were on my own, I might have spent the rest of the day on it. Just
Yeah.
because when you get focused, when something grabs you and you just can't let go of it, you go
Yeah.
down that hole. I think that's a totally natural thing, and lots of great engineers do that, but, having someone to share the context with, is super valuable. And
You would, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying, and who knows what this means in the AI era, right? I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are kind of viewing their coding assistant, or coding agent as a co-pilot, as a pair.
Yeah.
Uh, and in my view, the tools haven't quite lived up to the experience of pair programming yet.
Yeah.
But I think they will. They absolutely will.
Yeah. But you could never tell from this conversation that you're an engineer. The so how does it start? Like somewhere along the line, it's not very common for an engineer to become a venture capitalist. It's
Mm.
not unheard of. Mark Andreessen obviously has written some code, but how do you like where in your life do you decide of all the things to do, I'm going to be an engineer? Because you went to school for it. So what was there like a Heathkit there, or you're reading science fiction, or like where does it really start?
Yeah, I'll give you like the real answer to this question. I give people like varying degrees of truth when I answer this question.
Yeah,
I'll give you the real one. So um, yeah, basically, it's not something doing venture capital is not something I'd ever really thought of. I really always thought of myself as an engineer, and then kind of over time, engineering leader. Like I really, as you can tell, I'm really interested in process and like sort of how software is built, how product is built. So that kind of led me in kind of the management direction, and then eventually, as a CTO at a startup, you're getting a little bit of exposure to the business, like being invited to the board meetings, things like that. Um, that part was really interesting to me, but, there was a moment, I think it was after yeah, so before I was at Teespring actually, when, our startup SideTour was acquired by Groupon, a friend of mine, Daryl Silver, who's the founder of Thinkful, was connected to Bloomberg Beta, and Bloomberg's venture capital arm, and um, they were trying to find an engineer that they wanted to turn into a VC.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not really interested in that. And Daryl was like, well, just go in and meet them. So I met, I think, Karen Klein first. And I really liked her. I really hit it off. From my perspective, I thought she was great. And then I met James and I met Roy, and then Shaban Zillis was there at the time. Um, and I thought they were all great. And the process went on for about 3 months or so. And eventually, I can't believe I'm telling this on a recording. But eventually I got a no from them. And I was not even bought into this. Like I had just picked up some books on VC, and kind of was reading about it and learning about it. And when I walked into that first meeting, I knew nothing. I knew less than nothing. I didn't know what a venture fund was. I think I remember asking, like, what's the difference between the firm and like the annual fund that they're raising? Like I just literally didn't know. And I was really disappointed when I didn't get it. I was like, why am I disappointed? And then and so I was just thinking about it a bit, and I had a lot of friends that were starting companies right around that time. I angel invested in a few of them, and some of them turned out well. So these were actually friends from my college, from Olin College. Skydio, which is now a unicorn autonomous drone company, and Lever, which sold recently. It's a hiring software platform, and a company that was sold to Chime relatively early on. So I thought this venture thing seems interesting, and maybe I'll want to do it after I have a very successful career in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was about 30 at the time. I'm 41 now. And I thought, okay, I'll keep this in my back pocket. And like maybe I'm not someone who was ever really. I don't really think I want to retire, but I was like, well, at some point, engineering might be too hard for me, and then maybe I'll do VC when I'm like my 60s or something.
Wow.
And that was kind of my plan.
Yeah.
And so I did those angel investments, and then reconnected with Bloomberg Beta a couple years later when I moved to San Francisco, and they put me in their scout program, which I did. And so built a portfolio there, and then as Teespring kind of got like speed run the Teespring story, but the when it kind of got to the point where the team was being downsized, right, in a much smaller engineering org, it I had a friend that was like, "Hey, if you want to quit, I'll back you if you want to start a venture fund. Be your first, small LP." And I thought about it, and it felt like the right time. The engineering team got much smaller. We moved to a smaller office. I promoted someone to take over my role, and I basically just quit, and had no income, and spent a year doing angel investments and looking for LPs.
Yeah.
And I guess another kind of exercise in failure that didn't quite pan out exactly the way I wanted to. Um, I got a few commitments. I got some really awesome people in my life who agreed to back me. But I was trying to start a $5 million fund I think it was 2018 or so.
Yeah.
No one was using the term microfund, and most people I talked to were like, "That seems stupid. Like a $5 million venture fund seems really dumb. Like you should be doing 50 plus."
Yeah.
And now it's like quite common to do that kind of thing. But I met Sindana during that process, and I think they might have done a little bit of behind the scenes connecting me and Avidan at Root Ventures.
Yeah.
So Root at the time, it had been Kane and Avidan in Fund One. They just brought on Chrissy, and she was just coming off of maternity leave as I met Root, and I found out that basically their thesis was the same as mine. Like, I want to back engineers. I want to stay very close to engineering. I want to keep practicing. I want to keep my hands dirty.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks move from engineering to VC and they stop coding. And I'm still code. I'm never going to stop coding. It's my hobby. It's my favorite hobby.
Yeah.
So, and Avidan's the same way with the embedded systems and tinkering and stuff that he does. Kane with his motorcycle, and we're all kind of staying current. And I thought, well, hey, my plan said for my little micro fund, I was going to maybe get to like a $50 million fund on like fund 3 or something.
Yeah.
Things went well.
Yeah.
And Root already had a $31 million fund in fund 1, and then closed the $76 million fund for fund 2. And I had 3 partners, and I was a terrible mechanical engineer when I was at iRobot.
Yeah.
And Chrissy is an incredible electrical engineer. And Cain and Abaddon are pretty good, I guess. But I was like, this is great. I can be surrounded by mentors. I can really focus on the software side, and I can use my network to source things in robotics and hardware, but then kind of lean on the expertise of my partners who've sort of done more there than me on the hardware side. Um, it just yeah, and the things just kind of aligned.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess the last thing I would say, like, yeah, the real answer that I never tell people is I at some point, like my psychology, my ADHD, which comes out the more you work with me, um, it's a liability in programming. Like I think one of the as I mentioned, like I think one reason pair programming worked super well for me was it was this really um solid focusing mechanism that really helped me be productive. But I was constantly fighting my own psychology. And then what I realized through angel investing full time was like, wow, the context switching here is crazy. I'm like on a call. I was on a call with like a founder about like a fashion brand because when I was doing angel, I was more broad. So I was
Yeah.
like talking about fashion brands and then like um a developer tool and some software infrastructure, a robotics company. And then I'm like working with an existing portfolio company and then I'm pitching an LP and like and I was like, wow, like all the tools that I've built my whole life to basically be productive at being like an unmedicated ADHD adult,
Yeah.
all those tools that I've had to build up are actually helpful for me in VC. And I could actually like kind of turn my psychology into a superpower instead of a hindrance.
Mm.
Um, and so the coding that I do now, it's whatever I want, right? Like I get a random idea and I build something.
Yeah.
So I it the focus isn't so much required anymore. But I honestly like did I had that like moment. Remember, it was yeah over Christmas. I was at my dad's house and sitting on the back porch, and that thought just kind of occurred to me, and I was
Yeah.
like, I should definitely pursue this. That realization happened right around the time I was leaving Teespring to start the micro fund, and I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, let's just do it. It's
S
yeah.
So where did the engineering part originally come from? Did you read science fiction, or did you, like, find a metal bar on the street and decide to build something? Or, like, what is the
Well, funny, yeah. Like the women on my mom's side of the family have all been teachers, and the men have all been engineers or
Mm.
architects of different kinds. From a young age, my mom was always kind of like, I don't know, definitely encouraging me in that direction.
Yeah, yeah.
I think both in her capacity as so she just retired. She was a public school teacher for 20 plus years. Um, so I think it was her teacher instinct kind of encouraging me, and then also just um, yeah, I actually my grandfather died before when my mom was 19, her father passed away,
Yeah.
and he ran a civil engineering firm with his father. And I had these like artifacts, like I still have this stuff. I have his like uh I have like drawings of like boats that he was designing as a
Oh,
hobby
yeah.
and all his little tools. I have this like protractor and slide rule. Um and I don't know, I guess that stuff was always interesting to me, but when I showed an interest in computers, my parents are divorced. My mom was kind of raising me like on a public school teacher's budget,
Yeah, yeah.
and but the budget was kind of unlimited when it came to education. Like
Right.
there's always a way,
Right.
and and we yeah she bought me a computer or bought the family a computer, but I was programming QBASIC on it and building little HTML websites and stuff, which our website root.vc has kind of an homage to the hand
Right.
coded HTML embedded there as an Easter egg.
What was your first computer? What was that computer?
Um, that was a gateway. Well,
Or it doesn't matter anymore. It used to be like people,
yeah,
"Oh, it was a Commodore 64, or it was an Apple II, or it was something." Like
the first one where it was really something I got like my dad had a computer before that. It might have been like a Tandy or something, but I didn't really get to use it. The first one I really got to use was a Gateway 2000,
yeah, yeah.
which I got when I was in 4th grade, and it came with Windows 3.1,
Oh,
and
wow.
then we got the upgrade CD, and we upgraded it to Windows 95. Um,
Nice.
and my mom let me do all the like every time there was something like that, she would have me call gateway support because she like trusted me enough to let me do it, but enough. She's like, call the gateway support line. And then the guy on the other end would always just be like, "How old are you?" And then he'd be delighted. I would
Yeah.
say Gateway customer support, like, my god, I mean, Apple's pretty good, but Gateway was so much better. Like, these guys were, like, so excited to teach a 4th grader how
Yeah.
to install Windows 95.
Right.
I don't know where they found these guys.
That's so funny. Like early access to a computer just seems so important. Like, the Bill Gates thing where sort of like, yeah, he's a genius and all that stuff. But early on, my understanding is like he was at some school in Seattle and like his mom, here we go again. His mom was maybe I'm just making this story up, but his mom was like they got like a computer for the school
Yeah,
basically, and then they did a deal with somebody where they would get time on a mainframe or something like that. And so
yeah,
and then he and his friends would play around in this computer. But, like, in the whole world, like, every high school in the country, n no, he was, like, one of, like, very few people who had any kind of access to a computer. So if, like, every kid in the country had access to a, terminal and a mainframe and processing time, there might have been a million Bill Gates at the time, but he was, like, the guy, basically.
totally. Yeah, I buy that argument. I think yeah, I don't know, that era was just so, it was just I guess, like, is hacker ethos the thing? I don't know, like, people you're just messing around, like, the early
Yeah,
internet and like, actually, my friend so high school friend, Michael Aiello, who's, now, like, deep in the security world, cybersecurity world, he, just a couple months ago, emailed me some QBASIC files that, I remembered we did this, but I didn't have any of these files. We used to, like, write these little QBasic programs at home, put them on a floppy disk, bring them to school, and swap them. And I made a Star Trek story game, where you were the bridge crew or you were the captain, and you'd run into these little problems, and you'd have to ask the bridge crew for advice.
yeah,
And, uh, it was kind of like a choose your own adventure style thing.
yeah,
And, yeah, we would also sometimes in some of our really boring classes, we'd write QBasic programs on paper and
yeah.
then exchange notes. So we were, like, very cool. As you can imagine, we were, like, very popular kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the girls love that kinda stuff. The, That yeah, it is kind of interesting. Like, what do you make like, I'm just kinda curious about get back to this VC thing, but when I like, early when people came to computers, they would really early, they would, like, build their computers, or they would kinda start from, like, machine language. They'd know, what a power on self-test was, like, the whole thing. Um, and now we're in a world where when you come to a computer, you're really abstracted from anything having to do with that. Like,
Yeah,
disks
yeah,
and hard drives and it was the last time anybody built their own computer.
yeah.
I mean, and every generation's like, "It's better the way we did it." But what do you think? Do you think there's a generation of people who kind of discovered and built and just understood computers better than today, even though everything's much more powerful and visual and, or, go all
Yeah,
the way up to AI where, like, I've heard this every time, theoretically, I can code now,
yeah.
and we'll see. But
I mean, you should give it a try. Some of these
yeah,
tools are incredible.
yeah,
Um, but no, I think I think you hit the nail on the head. I think both things are true. It's kind of a paradox. Yeah, I think certainly it's the case that yeah, like I think when people were plugging their graphics cards and sound cards into their PCs, I bet the analog digital type electrical engineers were like, "Oh my god, these morons are just like plugging things into PCI slots. They couldn't even solve a Kirchhoff's law equation if it bit them in the ass or whatever." And then I think as people are like starting to write software, you're like, oh, you're getting so disconnected from the hardware because the C compiler does it for you. And then
right,
now we're getting these memory managed languages. Like, oh my God, the garbage collector just handles it. You don't even have to know how to do a malloc. So I think there's always this sort of like this like boomer mentality about that. And I think one thing as a VC now that I'm kind of yeah, I guess technically in my early 40s, like trying to figure out how to stay connected to that, because I do think you see this in San Francisco. I'm sure you see it elsewhere too, but I bet you don't see it anywhere quite like San Francisco. The young people playing with AI, they're tinkering, they're messing around, they're doing stuff that has no purpose. They're just enjoying it.
yeah,
So we co-host this event um, uh, called, oh my god, it's it's, demos and chill.
Yeah.
Demos and chill, and the rule is you can't bring something for work, you just bring some, like, weird thing you're working on. So people are, like, putting language models and stuffed animals and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I really think that kind of curiosity is the thing you're talking about with the Bill Gates stuff, and think about the power that these AI tools have, like, what's gonna get unlocked there. I don't think we really know. So I think on one hand, like, yeah, you're using ChatGPT, which means you don't know how to solve an analog digital circuit, you don't know how to build a computer, you don't know how to write assembly code, and you don't know how to write C code, and um, yeah, like, and you don't know how the linear algebra works that makes the AI happen, um, unless you dig in and learn those things on purpose. You
Right.
can do all those things. You can do cool things without knowing any of that. And I think that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
Much respect for people that, dig deeper, but, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the next Bill Gates is definitely doing things to their mind with AI right now that, like,
Yeah.
that we can't comprehend.
Well, it's funny too. It like never changes. I heard Mark Andreessen speaking recently, and like, just how cool is this guy? Think of all the companies he's invested in or what he's done, and the thing that he was kind of obsessing on is some guy in New Zealand. You know about this guy who like built an LLM for himself, and then he like had the LLM ingest like everything he'd ever done. He's just tinkering everything he'd ever done, and then a whole bunch of like crazy books and stuff like that. And then this is Mark Andreessen's like, what think about what
Totally.
he could do with his days, focus on this guy. And so then this guy gives it a Twitter account and it starts just posting kind of all kinds of crazy, inappropriate stuff. And then one day it sort of realizes that it's being controlled by this guy in New Zealand. It kind of gets upset, the Twitter thing. And so he just goes on and on and on. And then Mark Andreessen says, "Because can I invest in this LLM, this Twitter bot thing?" And the Twitter bot turns out thinks that VCs are terrible because apparently the corpus of information about VCs that it
Right.
trained on is not positive. And then so Mark Andreessen donates money to it instead, gives it a Bitcoin because it can't use a credit card and it uses the Bitcoin. But I'm like,
That's hilarious.
that is just pure, like, I don't know what, I just find that so cool. Like,
Totally.
what that guy's doing. I don't know if it's useful, but boy, would you bet on that guy, right?
Yeah, I think that's the kind of thing that makes me feel like I think, like, AI is at once overhyped and underhyped 'cause
Yeah,
I mean, who knows exactly. I'm definitely not a public markets guy at all. But yeah, like, where these revenue multiples are and, like, who knows, is there, like, a correction, and is the labor productivity coming soon or next year, or, we may enter another AI winter at some point, or, at least relative to where we're at now, some kind
yeah.
of correction. I'm not saying that is gonna happen, but if it does happen, um, I think I'm kinda fine with it because I think the fundamentals are still underestimated. I think people are not really thinking about, um a lot of people are not really thinking about how deeply, this really reflects all the other, computing waves that we've had in terms
Yeah.
of what the talent's doing, how they're spending their time. Um, yeah,
Well,
I think that playful energy is something that, yeah, we as a firm, like, really try to hold on to, and now I'm so glad that we're seeing it now in this new area.
yeah. Well, and the winters are when it happens. Like, my partner essentially invented at 8-Bit Capital, essentially invented social networking
Yep.
at a period when the general zeitgeist, people forget, so social networking is created. Everything that could ever be invented on the internet has been invented. It's over. Every venture
Right,
capitalist was scrubbing internet off their, the way everyone scrubbed Web3 off their website in
right,
the last couple months, and they're now
right.
AI native. In
Yeah,
the
of course.
last 2 months, are AI native.
Try to pretend that, like, the Web3 and the AI are the same thing in
Right,
somehow,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm getting a little skeptical on the AI native thing because I'll give it to you if you're a young guy and you, like, are crypto native because maybe you did that, during COVID and no one else was doing it. There are really impressive people who've been working on AI for a long time. Like Dean Stanton or whoever they are. Like, there are people who've been working on this for a bit.
Yeah.
So, um, Also wonder now if there's a bit of, when Mark Andreessen was doing things, or people back then when people were building, there wasn't kind of like the BS poser tourist set, right? Like nobody like faked like they were, oh, I'm super expert at,
That's a good
building,
point.
HTML. But now every time we have one of these waves, I mean, San Francisco, 5 parties a night, people start like, how do you sort of, as a venture capitalist now, the guy who's like, no, this guy's a real nerd programmer who's building a Twitter bot that emulates his life, and some guy who's good in a room, and yeah, I'm an AI guy, and I'm going to transform
Mhm.
sales or whatever it is.
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, that's it's a big, to some extent, we don't I mean, do we have to worry maybe worry about this a little less than many firms? Because I think we only invest in technical teams. So we've never backed a company that didn't have a technical founder, and probably most of the companies we invest in are all technical founders. So, not to say that you can't have, 3 people with engineering degrees and still be a charlatan, but I do think that the odds are much lower. Um,
Yeah,
so,
right.
it tends to be, it's usually not necessarily even people who come from an AI background. Like, a lot of times they're more interested in the problem space. Like I mentioned Zed earlier, Nathan has been working on text editors forever. He worked on GitHub Atom,
Yeah,
and he was even, like, kinda playing around with editors when he was in school. Um, and the fact that AI transformed the editor is totally coincidental to his obsession with editors and whatever the latest editor technology is. So I wonder if a lot of people aren't gonna more fit that mold. I mean, maybe that's, um, maybe that's at odds with the AI native thesis, or maybe not, but I wonder how many people. I mean, it's gotta be the case that if you're obsessed with a problem and AI happens to be the tool that solves the problem,
right.
that's the one to pick up. And the AI native thing might be like, think about, like in BI tools, for example, there was kind of a wave of like bespoke BI tools, and then Tableau came around, and this is a revelation because it like works on Windows, and it's like graphical, and it's like super cool. It uses the current paradigm. And then, a lot of all the BI tools that came after Tableau were sort of like cloud native. Right. I think that like the founders of those companies, when they said, let's improve the BI tool, it was obvious that you would go, oh, cloud. Like, we
Yeah,
work at a company. We want to share the data. I want to like save this query and save this chart and let other people manipulate it. Um, and so, and you'd see the same thing with hiring tools, right? Lever was sort of the like a sort of cloud native Web 2.0. Like when the time that Lever was founded, Web 2.0 was not something you made fun of. It was like an actual thing.
right,
So
right,
because the Google Docs had just been created, right? So there
right,
was like no interactive. Google Docs was sort of one of the first real like multi-user interactive documents.
right.
And so Lever doing that was like, wow, this is early to
Yeah,
this trend. So yeah, I mean, some categories may be somewhat boring in the sense that they're kind of solving the same problem, but the teams are just not quite. A new team that comes in with a new tool set and understands it deeply and naturally solves problems with that tool set might build the next, large company in that space.
yeah. What are you missing with, if you focus on technical founders, it seems like there's any number of companies that have, we tell our founders this sometimes, inferior products, like they don't have the absolute best thing, but they've got a guy who's really good at selling it, and, maybe Salesforce is the best software, and maybe it's got the best sales team. Like, do you miss something there? Like, or do you find the technical founder that has it's Mark Andre or Bill Gates, they got both of them.
It's so funny. I had a very good friend of mine became an LP in our fund, and I'm going to send him this podcast so he'll hear this anecdote. But when he was having me do the pitch, and he he said something along those. He asked a similar question. I was like, "Look, like we're focused on what we're focused on, and like we're not going to like find the next Airbnb. We're going to find the next MongoDB or something.
Right.
And he's like, great. He's like, I'm in. But by the way, never tell an LP that you're not going to find Airbnb. I'm like,
Right.
okay. I think that's hilarious. It's true. And I'm committing the sin a second time by repeating it here. But I really do think in venture capital, at the end of the day, capital is a commodity to an entrepreneur, to a founder. And I think on some level, it's like, what's the cheapest capital I can get? And um, if that's the case, like, how can you differentiate? How can you make sure that you're getting good deal flow? I think it's by kind of like putting the flag out there and saying, like, we're focused exclusively on this kind of thing. And if we can be a lightning rod for a certain kind of founder, and we get all the best founders of this one thing, no matter how narrow, I think that's how you win rather than trying to sort of be the best at everything. If you're a small fund, if you're Andreessen Horowitz or Sequoia, or, certainly, yeah, you can have lots of experts in lots of areas that make up that fund. But for a small fund like ours, I think we're happy to sort of miss things that, we miss a lot of great things, right? We just have to make sure that everything we're in is great. And I think that, or enough of the things that we're in are great. That's sort of the price you pay for having like um, a narrow focus.
And you're also going to be in the next Airbnb, of course.
And we'll be in the next Airbnb. Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. I know we're going to be in every unicorn.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. I mean, look, yeah. The fun math suggests. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of a tangent. But yeah,
Well, so we come to AI, and so you've seen different tech trends and worked in them technically. Where do you put AI? Every time something emerges, going back to the PC, like a lot of people say, well, the PC happened, and that's why you could do spreadsheets, which means you could do financial modeling in a way you couldn't do before, and that's what led to the M&A boom of the '80s, right? Or internet emerges and digital photography, and now you can have social networks and so forth and so on. Um, Mobile was probably another one of those. So now we have AI. Seems like a pretty big deal. Like, what do you think in terms of investing, people changing the world? Starting companies are going to change the world.
yeah. I'm sorry.
Like where do you put it? Like Web3, for me, it was a lot of people coming in and telling us we were morons because we didn't get why your mortgage needs to be on the blockchain.
Right.
Um, Lost, kind of lost on me. AI does seem like it's one of the big ones to
Yes.
me.
That's
So,
totally.
what's your
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Look, I think we as a firm, we looked into blockchain stuff a little bit. Um, and yeah, this is something where I tinkered around and played around a bit. Made like a MetaMask thing and was getting lots of like airdrops and moving tokens around and built some little Solidity scripts and stuff um, just to see if I thought it was real. And I guess I came away with like um, a few conclusions after playing around with it for not very long, to be clear. But it felt like the computer science is crazy. Like I do remember reading the original Satoshi paper is not very long, and
Yeah.
if you have like, I just have an undergrad degree in CS, so I don't even know that much, but it was enough. I could actually understand it and was like, this is actually really cool. This is like a very very cool
Yeah.
algorithm that's not intuitive to solve like this particular kind of problem. And then it turns out that kind of problem is potentially valuable in these like financial applications. Like that's awesome. Like that feels like I can definitely understand how people got super excited about Bitcoin.
And Bitcoin's been a big success.
Totally.
Like,
And I
yeah.
think a lot of the other stuff, it felt to me like, well, first of all, again, this like selection bias problem. I think to really, really get the top deals in Web3, you've got to really put yourself out there and like get into these ecosystems and
Yeah.
stuff.
You gotta be
And
like Chris
remember,
Dixon or yeah.
oh, totally, they've done a great job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andreessen Crypto's done a fantastic job. Actually, and while I was thinking about this, Ariana Simpson, who's there now, is a good friend of mine, and I remember I would send her stuff that I was like deals I was getting, and she's like, "Look, you're not getting the cream of the crop." I'm
Yeah.
like, "You gotta appreciate the honesty. I should not be doing these deals if I'm getting
Right.
negative selection
Right.
bias." Because who's gonna send their crypto pitch to a VC that has nothing about crypto on their
Right.
website?
Right.
But what's the original point? I think I think a lot of the technology for building Solidity scripts is kind of interesting, like the sort of derivative, like devtools of
Right.
crypto was appealing to me because I had actually my intern at Pivotal went to go found Chainlink,
Hmm.
um, which is a kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And he was, I remember one day in our office, it was after I was at Root and Chainlink was already a thing. He kind of came in and he was like, "Look, man, like the crypto world, the state of software engineering in the crypto world is insane." He's like, "You would not believe the kinds of stuff that like the engineers working on my team and like working on the project are doing. It's like the Wild West. And like no one's writing tests. There's no such thing as code quality. There's no such thing as like uh yeah, CI, CD, like all these practices. It's the Wild West." He's like, if you know, if we're gonna be that's like kind of fine and it's cool. Like I said, the energy is always great for a new technology ecosystem. But then your pitch is we're going to underpin all of the global financial system. And I'm like, well,
Right.
maybe you should write tests. So and I think it's certainly matured since then. But yeah, I guess a lot of the folks at the time, oh yeah, I remember the point I was gonna make earlier. I remember a lot of folks at the time as we were looking at like how do we get into this ecosystem? How do we get into these Telegram groups and stuff? And should we, do this? I remember a lot of people tweeting, like this is almost like tons of people tweeting. They're like, the smartest people I know are getting into crypto.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I asked our partnership, and I'm like, that is not true for us. Like the smartest people I know were like founding LLM companies. Like Kane's best friend David founded Adept, and um like we knew people at Google Brain, and like I have a friend that like went to go head data science at Waymo and work on self-driving cars. I'm like, no, these are actually like I do know plenty of smart people getting into crypto, but like it's not even close to the case that all the smartest people I know. I'm like, does this say something about who these people know and how
Right.
smart their friends are? I don't know. But, I guess that'd be like the snarky takeaway, but the, like, more impactful takeaway for our fund was, like, actually, there's, like, another huge renaissance happening right now, which is, like, hard tech. I mean, people are, like engineers I knew who were, like, working on social networking and CRM and things like oh, and, like, yeah, the friend who was at Waymo was previously at a social networking company, and, like, as money became available for that stuff and as lots of new technology there was so much cool technology, like LiDAR becoming much, much cheaper,
Yeah.
AI finally converging, the GPUs getting more capable, like, all that stuff was happening at the same time, and the smartest people we knew were like, "Let's start solving harder problems in engineering."
Yeah.
And so that's I think if anything, it was really just that. I mean, it's 4 partners and we all found this kind of renaissance in our own areas.
Right.
Like even in CAD, we have multiple investments in ECAD and in electrical CAD and in mechanical CAD, where people are applying AI techniques to those disciplines. Um, and those companies are doing super well, and they
Yeah.
sort of found that software engineering breakthrough at like exactly the right moment.
Yeah. What, do you know who Satoshi is?
Oh, like
Don't people know who he do people know who he is, like,
I don't know.
not widely?
I think I just outed my anyone who listens to you and is really deep into crypto would probably notice the, like, 5 or 6, like, shibboleths I broke to, like, demonstrate that I know nothing about crypto.
Right. But
But, yeah.
I was reading, like, I went down one of those rabbit holes. Oh, well, with AI, 'cause I was asking the AI. So it could have been true. They could have just been like, "AI is just screw with you," right? Because
Yeah.
I don't know, or just screw with me. One told me I invented LinkedIn, which was great, but not true. But I don't know, I'd seen the whole thing where people are like, "Well, he uses 1 space after the period versus 2, and it's British, spelling," and if you kind of put all that together, it's like, obviously, this one guy, I don't know. It's
Oh,
God, what a great feature of crypto that you've got that's the story, you
right?
know?
Guess so. I mean, on the other hand, it's like, I guess if, we put the fund into Bitcoin, it'd be
Right,
it'd be at a huge multiple in liquid.
right.
But no, it's I mean, I think yeah, anyway, my other like random rant is I think a lot of people one thing I've really grown to appreciate in the last few years in VC. So, and being on the board of my college,
Yeah,
which I think I mentioned before we started taping, I'm on the board at Olin College, and right now I'm vice chairing the investment committee. And what the other side of venture capital is that you are a service provider for your LPs. They are hoping to grow their investment assets.
Yeah.
And if you have really awesome LPs, you can feel really good about that work. And usually they have a strong point of view about, if they're sufficiently, large, they have a strong point of view about how they want to invest their money. And if they wanted a certain amount of crypto exposure, that's probably what they went for.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have appreciated, X% of your fund that was of your, dev tools and robotics and hard tech exposure is now in crypto.
Yeah. Right.
Uh, it's when you're running like a fund professionally, it does feel like something that you should think about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you talk to LPs like, well, why shouldn't I? Once in a while you wake up when you're a venture capitalist, you're like, this is kind of incredible in the sense that you can, like at LPs, like, well, why should I put my money in real estate, right? They give me money every month. That's kind of cool. And you're like, that is very cool. And Facebook's really cool, like $1 trillion, but that's not the asset class where you put something's worth $10 million and becomes worth $1 billion or $1 trillion. It's just not. Like your real estate's not going to become 500 times more valuable.
Right.
And in what we do, it could. Not every time, but it could. And that's just in terms of an asset class, if you want to think of it that way, or in terms of something being pretty magical in the world. And there is kind of one place in the world now. I'm curious what you think about this. Like we kind of went through a phase of like, it's Miami, it's Austin. And I remember James Courier said to me, I think on this podcast, when something's happening, like the painting revolution or whatever, you want to be in Florence, right? You don't want to be in Dublin for that revolution.
Right. Right.
And I think the idea now is that maybe that's the Bay Area or San Francisco is kind of, if you're serious about it, that's where you go.
Look,
In spite of how crazy this place is.
it clearly is. I mean, if you spend you have to spend some time in San Francisco and some time in tech hubs that are not San Francisco, and then the difference becomes immediately obvious. And there are fantastic founders all over the world. I absolutely believe that. But the founders that are in San Francisco are like tripping and falling into interesting conversations about AI. Like it's happening all the time, and lots of other places I'm, visiting. It's it feels like you're talking about the AI conversation from 6 months ago.
Yeah.
In the best case, in some cases, worse than that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's we'll continue to invest all over, and we've done some recent investments that are, I think, amazing in other parts of the world, and other parts of the country. But if you're, I think, a early career founder looking to just hyper optimize every variable in the equation,
Yeah.
it feels like going to San Francisco should be part of it. We definitely also have founders moving to SF, after we invest in them.
Yeah, we've definitely had a few of those from Europe. It turns out they don't think Europe's a really awesome place to build a company, and they move to San Francisco.
The regulatory thing over there is serious and a little scary, but I also think it's just kind of the vibes, to be honest. Like, yeah, a lot of you got to be a little bit iconoclastic to be an AI entrepreneur in Europe these days.
Yeah.
The average person you run into, when you mention AI, they'll sort of say like, "Oh, that's the thing that steals all the art." And they're not excited about the possibility. Yeah. They're just interested in parroting and repeating the talking points from the government and the newspapers, and the industries that are being disrupted.
Well, too,
some artists in San Francisco are pro AI.
Yeah,
it's certainly not all of them, but I think there's going to be a lot of interesting, creative, non-technical, artistic things coming out of AI.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and I would argue in San Francisco, the Waymos are kind of like, so if you don't live in San Francisco, I was in Chicago recently, you don't know that like everyone here is hopping into and prefers the autonomous cars, which are Waymo.
Yep.
The first 5 times you see it, you're like, "Ooh, that's really weird." Yep. And then you're like, "Meh, there it is."
Yeah.
And it just reminds you every day, like, yeah, AI stuff, when people, not too long ago, people were like, "Oh, it's 10 years away."
Yep.
Nope. Like, as soon as they got introduced, and as soon as, by the way, San Francisco tried to stop them because we're nuts, But fortunately, they got far enough along that I think it's going to be hard to. I'm sure they'll try.
They've tried very hard.
Yeah.
If you follow me on Twitter, then I've chronicled a lot of this drama. I added like kind of the when I was living in District 5, we had Dean Preston as a supervisor,
Oh,
who's
good
the
Lord.
DSA dude.
I'm in
Who had
District
a lot
9.
of,
We've got a socialist now.
oh, you're in D9, yeah. You got Jackie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
socialist. Great.
she blocked me on Twitter, so I can't
Hey, congratulations.
give her feedback in the way that I was giving Dean Preston feedback, as we should say. But yeah, no, his long list of problems. He did this crazy weird AstroTurf, him and Aaron Peskin, against Waymo, which Mike Solana at Pirate Wires did a really great deep dive into uh, how that went down. But at the end of the day, it's technology that saves lives. Like this thing, the government should be interested in reducing traffic fatalities or automobile violence, as the activists call it. Like
Right.
the activists should be aligned with the technologists
Yeah.
in this regard. And I found a few um, that are intellectually honest about it. But yeah, at the end of the day, like it won, and it was just like such an unbelievable, unmitigated um, loss for the NIMBYs and Luddites who wanted to get rid of the Waymo. They lost in the court of public opinion. They lost. They lost in the sort of policy government side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically boiled down to they wanted city level control. They were sort of saying, "Hey, the state CPUC and DMV shouldn't be allowed to approve this stuff. The city of San Francisco
Yeah.
needs the ability to review Waymo." And you're like, "No, this is like never going to work. If every city council in the
Right.
state of California had to approve Waymo for it to like drive through the territory,
Yeah.
uh, this would not work." And when they didn't get their way, they started doing weird shit like um, compromising the like parking lot licenses of
Yeah.
Waymo employees and stuff like that. It was super weird.
It's just this is the nutty thing about San Francisco is you have all this so much wealth and like dynamic, intelligent people, and then um, near us there's an old theater called the Castro Theater that's just been
Yeah.
empty for years,
It
and
was,
somebody was renovating it and they want to make it a a concert venue.
yep.
The city fought it.
Yep.
Like
Well,
keep
specifically,
keep it
Aaron
closed, and
Peskin
yeah,
fought.
there you go. And has something to do with the seats. And by the way, if you've ever been to this theater, the seats are just horrible, uncomfortable. They're way too small. And you're just like,
I
what?
actually loved the theater and kind of, you're right, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was kind of charmingly uncomfortable, but yeah.
The fact that anybody gives a crap and is going to put money into something, and
Exactly.
and that you've got a government that would fight that is like, it's just astonishing.
My favorite part of that was how it was like heterosexual supervisors from outside of the Castro that were trying to tell gay supervisor Raphael Mandelman what to do at the historic Castro Theater.
Right.
It's kind of like, why does it matter to you? They're like such committed NIMBYs. Um,
It is crazy. The
um,
way the Waymo thing has been great in that respect. Just watch, because I just thought it was not going to happen. They were going to regulate it. Then there's a whole thing where like anytime Waymo gets in an incident, like
yeah,
if you think about it mathematically, it's 90% safer than a human driver. But
yeah.
once in a while, it's gonna drive by a school bus,
Mhm.
and then that's a front page story. Now,
Oh yeah,
I see that happen 12 times on my way to work by somebody in some Prius or whatever the hell they're driving, their Jeep Wagoneer. That doesn't make the news, but
totally.
um,
But there was at the height of that stuff when they were kind of running their Luddite propaganda bullshit. They there was a story in I don't one of these rags, SF Gate or Mission Local or something, where they put they were listing the number of incidents, which Waymo has to report every kind of incident or accident. So they included, can't remember, the number was like 8 for the month or something, and like one of those was a stop sign fell over and like fell on the Waymo and dented it.
right.
So reported as an incident, but there hadn't. I mean, there have been shockingly few actual injuries
Well, I'm surprised because you would think it's 90%. It's literally like 90%
Right.
safer than a human, but that
Right.
still means you get
You're gonna get
something's
some.
something's gonna happen. You think, man, God forbid one thing happens. Is it gonna be that we're suspending this and the whole thing, or is it? I think the cat's too far out of the bag, or the toothpaste too out of the
It's
whatever. But
for sure.
hopefully,
I think so,
and
but this is the
yeah,
thing with autonomy, and I remember talking about this a long time ago. So I had a professor, Gil Pratt, who worked on the DARPA Grand Challenge when he was a professor at MIT before Olin. And, I remember him talking about how and this was in 2008, he was looking or 2006. Um, he was, talking about how autonomous cars are gonna have to be so much if they were safer than humans by 1%, it wouldn't fly.
right,
Like, you as soon as you hand the keys over to autonomy, people are going to react emotionally and, demand sort of more a higher level of safety from a computer than they would from a human.
right,
So Waymo's done that. I mean, it's like an order of magnitude
yeah,
safe. Um, and, yeah, I mean, look, that team has been absolutely brilliant on the policy front as well as
yep,
the technology side.
yeah,
Um, my biggest concern is I would just love for there to be more I want Waymo to have more competitors.
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
it's a
Zooks
shame.
is coming apparently.
Yeah.
I had a funny one. I'll wrap up. I have one more thing for you, but I had someone this weekend ask. They were kind of from out of town, and they just done their first Waymo ride, and they're like, "Yeah, but what about when it rains?" And I was
Oh, yeah.
like,
It's way
"Well,
safer than a human when it
I'm like,
rains.
whatever a human knows about rain, like, I don't
Yeah.
think people get like you look left and right at a stop sign.
Yeah.
Waymo's probably looked left, right, up, down, backwards, and forwards 7,000 times in that period. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
whatever a human can do with rain, I'm pretty sure the Waymo's 10 times better.
So I grew up in Florida where it rains almost every day, it seemed. And so people, when I moved to Massachusetts, and I was like, holy crap, people do not know how to drive in the rain here. And it's true in Northern California. It was true in New York. In Florida, you're just used to it. But like, if you really think about it, like heavy rain in San Francisco, we just got some yesterday. It's
Yeah.
super rare. It happens like a few times a year. And the Waymo has seen it, millions of times. I I think that a human driver in the rain in San Francisco is atrocious and should be replaced.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me ask you this. I've asked my guests this recently. I was just kind of having fun, and then a non-zero number of guests like weren't. Are we going to have to blow up the data centers? Like, is the AI going to become a problem, and we're going to have to
Ha,
go pull the plug on a
yeah.
data center?
No, I don't subscribe to this at all. Um, yeah. I I, oh man, we've only got a minute before I have to
Yeah,
run, so I don't have, I probably can't quite dive into it, but the amount of hand waviness around this AI doomerism, um, I think is, sort of the safetyism industrial complex.
yeah,
Um, I don't know, it's hard to take it seriously for me,
yeah.
without sort of specific concerns I think the world the actual real world of AI safety, like the things that the people who work on safety at OpenAI are doing, they're working on real, particular, present problems, solving them. Um, People talking about hypotheticals in the future that typically don't have the technical background to be able to make the predictions they're making just is so uninteresting to me.
Well, that's good. You're the first person who said definitively no, by the way. A lot of people have said, "I'm not sure." So, well, this has been thank you so much for doing this. This is great. And congratulations. Tell people how they find you and your fund.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, our website is root.vc. It's,
And it's cool, by the way. It's a like a command prompt interface. I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun.
yeah, we built that ourselves. It was really funny. So the VC emailed me and said, "What design firm did you use to make your website?" And I was like, "It was me." And the
Right.
code's open source, so you can fork it if you want.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I'm on Twitter a lot, probably too much. Terron K, TerronK. Um, and yeah,
Great.
thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for doing this. This is the Something About Your podcast. Lee Edwards is my guest. Talk to you next time.